an absolute honour to be best man. James says, if I do a good job today, he'll use me again next time. I've known the groom since I was 2 years old. 23 years, it's a long time. But once James is fond of you, there's really no getting away. Aimee can testify to that. It's fitting we should be here in the village James and I grew up in. But being best mates with him as a kid wasn't easy. James was, is, and probably always will be the golden boy of Pitton. There's no lawn he hasn't mown, no fence he hasn't painted, no fallen apples left unpicked. If there was a chore to be done, James Emden would be there to do it. At the very sight of him, the elderly ladies of Pitton would rush to their front garden, desperately hoping to catch just one of those trademark smiles. They'd return to their husbands, swooning with delight. Do you know, I've just seen that lovely James Emden. He was with that Rick boy again. James was always suspiciously well behaved as a child. This was perfectly illustrated when, as kids, a big group of us were walking past the village shop. Eyeing the sweets in the window, someone shouted, "Wouldn't it be, like, well good, you could have the whole of the shop filled to the roof with sweets, and they were all yours." Everyone agreed enthusiastically that this would indeed be well good. Everyone, that is, except James, who proudly declared, "Actually, I'd much rather it were full of fruit." That's when I first knew he was different. Like all of us, James does have his faults. I was 12 years old when James's girlfriend at the time called me up and insisted I dump him, on her behalf. A tragic ending to their 3-week relationship. James's one and only girlfriend before Aimee. They held hands at least twice. So numerous were the reasons why this girl wanted to finish with him that I'd had to stop her. In order to get a pen and paper to take notes. When it came to the dumping, I did a bad job trying to let James down gently. "I don't understand where she's ending it," James cried. "Hold on," I said. "Let me get my notepad." She says, "You're too clingy. You have small feet." "You're a bit posh. You wear too much lip balm." "Too healthy. You don't like McDonald's." I have time to do all that. Now that may have been a bit of a nasty memory for Jimbo, but it's irrelevant now. And the evidence, if ever it was needed, is here today. He's got someone who loves and respects him. Someone he clicks with on every level, who understands him and looks out for him no matter what. But today's not all about me. It's fair to say, though, that James has had a big impact on my life. So rational, careful and well behaved as he is, I'd be a fool not to use him as a role model. Being that bit older, I often refer to James as my canary down the mine. He goes through all the big things in life first. I watch how he gets on and then quite often just copy. James got a paper round, so did I. James got a silly floppy haircut, soon I was fighting him for the mirror. James went to St. Joseph's School. Next year, that was the one for me. James got a job at Waitrose. 6 months later, I was stacking those shelves. This carried on in many ways through college and uni, and then James came out and became a building surveyor. And so I said, "Look, that looks really tricky. You go and have a career, I'll just go back to uni and study film." It's fair to say we've led different lives. tempting to try and tarnish the squeaky clean image that James has worked so hard to create. But if I'm really honest, most, if not all of our adventures incriminate me quite a lot more. I know Jane is never shy on voicing just who she thinks is responsible for leading her angelic Salisbury. And although I'd hate to admit it, she's usually right. But in the following story, the blame can only lie with our groom. One morning, James awoke from a heavy night's drinking to find a number of emails from a Russian man. And £350 missing from his account. Strange. A few days later, he receives a package in the post. This is true. Inside, an AK-47 machine gun. That's exactly the right reaction. I personally find James's instincts a little bit worrying. The very idea of him stumbling in drunk at 3 a.m. and thinking to himself, you know what I could really go for? Most people just go for a kebab. James has always had a slightly odd obsession with weapons. I can't tell you how many times we'd arm ourselves with a number of his replica weapons, never ever refer to them as toy guns. We'd pull on camouflage and a balaclava and run around the house shooting bad guys, or burst into Hannah's room to save her from terrorists. They once thanked us. Afterwards, we'd sit in the garden and Jane would bring over a tray of drinks and a little bag of sweets from her trips to the shop. Now you boys take it steady. I don't want anyone getting hurt. We've got the wedding tomorrow. Some of you may know James is a black belt, second dan in the art of the Yado. She tells me it's really good. As I understand it, it's chopping things with a samurai sword. It's a niche hobby, but I suppose if you're the type of man who needs to spend his Sundays wearing a dress and chopping it's better for you, James, and the general public. You do it locked away in the gym somewhere. But it's these quirks that make James who he is, and the man that Aimee, who's looking stunning today, is marrying. Your soulmate, that person you absolutely know is the one for you, is a special and rare thing to find. So Aimee's decided to give up looking. He's a lucky man for it. For a wedding present, Aimee bought James a samurai sword, custom made and hand forged in China. It was very expensive, but to be fair, weaponry has been a huge passion of James's for years. For Aimee's present, James bought her a beautiful, custom made and elegantly designed shotgun. But, to be fair, weaponry. James, to me, that sums up just how far Aimee's willing to put up with you. And even embrace your ways. Trust me, she's a keeper. Ask any woman in this room if you gave him a shotgun as a wedding present. They'd probably aim it at you in mind to see jewelry. I'd just like to finish by saying it's an honour to stand here in front of you as James's best man, and to have watched my best friend marry the only girl he's ever loved. So would you like to join me in raising a toast to our newlyweds? James.